Look at the UK-EU border today. Commercial transport trucks loaded with agricultural and food goods, known as SPS goods, frequently stall at checkpoints, slowed by administrative friction. To solve this, the government has proposed a treaty arrangement called Dynamic Alignment with European Union sanitary and phytosanitary regulations. Dynamic alignment requires the automatic, continuous adoption of foreign rules into domestic law. The UK would be governed by regulations overseen by the Court of Justice of the European Union, with no domestic vote on individual measures. While this aims to clear a local border bottleneck, the Growth Commission predicts it will carry a net macroeconomic cost of £15 billion and spark a sequence of retaliations from the UK's other major trading partners. The UK operates within three distinct global trade spheres: the EU, the United States, and the CPTPP nations. Tying the UK rulebook to the EU regulatory sphere creates a hard-coded conflict with the legal frameworks of the other two. There is an alternative. An equivalence-based mutual recognition agreement can achieve a frictionless border without the UK surrendering its sovereign regulatory control. Choosing alignment over equivalence changes the UK from an independent partner to a recipient of external rules, a move carrying significant economic and legal consequences. When evaluating regulatory impact, standard assessments usually focus on superficial business compliance costs. This misses the real damage. Regulatory costs impose deadweight losses that degrade the entire competitive dynamic of a market. To measure this, we use the SRB Gamma econometric model. It identifies domestic competition as the primary driver of GDP per capita growth. The threat to that growth comes from what are known as anti-competitive market distortions, or ACMDs. The EU operates a hazard-based, precautionary regulatory regime. By prioritizing rigid harmonization over scientific risk assessment, this system functions as a continuous generator of these market distortions. These distortions act as state-created barriers. They raise costs for new entrants, which artificially shelters legacy incumbents from competition and slows innovation. Damage of dynamic alignment extends to international legal exposure. By adopting the EU rulebook, the UK inherits the EU's history of multilateral trade disputes at the World Trade Organization. The EU has a record of maintaining method-based bans, like prohibiting beef from hormone-treated cattle, in direct defiance of WTO rulings, choosing to accept trade sanctions rather than comply. This history directly threatens the UK's membership in the CPTPP, a 12-nation trade bloc built on a science-based legal architecture that prioritizes objective risk assessment. Under CPTPP Article 7.92, member nations are legally required to base their sanitary and phytosanitary trade measures on documented, objective scientific evidence. This creates a mechanical collision. The EU's precautionary rules structurally violate the CPTPP's science-based mandates. The UK becomes unable to satisfy both sets of treaty obligations simultaneously. This triggers a legal doom loop. If the UK amends its rules to satisfy its CPTPP partners, the EU can suspend UK trade access for breaching the alignment agreement. But if the UK maintains alignment with EU rules, CPTPP partners will enact legal trade sanctions against the UK for treaty violations. Dynamic alignment is an inescapable legal trap that guarantees permanent exposure to cross-retaliation from the UK's major trading partners. That retaliation directly threatens relations with the United States. The US government already explicitly tracks the UK's alignment with EU rules as an actionable non-tariff trade barrier. The Office of the United States Trade Representative's 2026 National Trade Estimate Report formally documents this. It states, "The United States is concerned that existing UK measures and the likely future dynamic alignment with the EU unnecessarily restrict trade." The report targets specific EU regulations, such as restrictions on gene-edited crops, that lack scientific justification and disproportionately lock out American production systems. The retaliatory threat is concrete. Congress is expected to press the administration to treat dynamic alignment as grounds for suspending preferential terms under the US-UK Economic Prosperity Deal. Locking in these EU-derived barriers risks over $27 billion in foregone US export and GDP upside. It also places active agreements in jeopardy, including lucrative automotive tariff quotas, the 2025 pharmaceutical trade deal, and $11 billion in zero tariff access. By aligning its rulebook with Brussels, the UK loses its leverage and its ability to negotiate independent, high-value trade deals with the world's largest economy. There is a way to eliminate border friction without triggering these economic and legal costs. The delays at ports like Dover are not caused by different regulatory standards. They are caused by the absence of a formal system to recognize those standards. The alternative is equivalence. Countries retain independent rulebooks but accept each other's products by establishing an appropriate level of protection, or ALOP. If the exporting country meets this shared safety threshold, goods flow freely, regardless of differences in the underlying regulations. The task of establishing equivalence is simplified by the fact that the UK and EU currently share identical foundational rules. Both parties are starting from the same rulebook. The EU itself already utilizes this model in its veterinary agreement with New Zealand. Under that equivalence arrangement, only 2% of New Zealand meat exports to the EU are subject to physical inspection. They achieved frictionless trade with no surrender of regulatory sovereignty. A mutual recognition agreement achieves the operational goals at the border without importing the anti-competitive market distortions that stunt domestic growth. The primary objection is that negotiating a mutual recognition agreement takes time, and UK businesses need border relief immediately. The immediate solution for incoming European goods is unilateral recognition. The UK already uses this mechanism. It unilaterally recognizes pharmaceutical approvals from the EU, the US, and Japan, allowing medicines to enter the market without duplicative domestic assessment. This logic scales to agri-food. The UK can instantly eliminate documentary and identity checks for EU agricultural imports by recognizing EU standards as equivalent, without signing a treaty that mandates future alignment. The UK has the negotiating leverage to pursue this. It is the destination for 23% of total EU agri-food exports, making it the bloc's single largest market. Policymakers face a choice: operate as a regulatory dependent or leverage that market power to interoperate as an independent state. Dynamic alignment is an unforced error. It is a decision to adopt structural economic subordination that surrenders sovereign wealth and provokes trade wars, when standard equivalence tools can solve the border problem completely.